trying to make sure that that we raise these daughters into finer womanhood. And one of the things that parents want to keep their daughters safe from is ensuring that you protect the sanctity of her body, and basically that she don't go around here having having sex and using her body in in um in unnatural, I'm gonna use that term, in unnatural ways. And I'm going to define that very loosely. I'm actually not going to define it. I know parents are very concerned about is I don't want my daughter going out here getting pregnant. I mean, that was one of the things that I heard. Don't go out there and have no babies. Don't go out there and make no babies. You bring a baby home, I'm not taking care of a baby. While there is so much emphasis on making sure that she doesn't get pregnant, telling her what's going to happen to her life if she goes out here and she gets herself a baby, and things that you do. You go and you get her birth control, and you keep her in the house, and you give her all of these instructions about how you should conduct yourself like a lady and what she should and should not do. I agree. Got it. I see where you're going. I get how you got there, and I understand what your motive is. But there are some better forms of birth control that you don't ever look at and you don't even consider. So let me tell you about what happens with the ones that you're using. You will go when you take her to Planned Parenthood or to her doctor to get her some birth control. But you hands off totally and completely to therapy because she may have some internal issues that you can't get in birth control. But no, we can't do that. What we got to do is we got to pop a pill. You keep her in the house, but what you also do is you make her naive. Years ago, there was he wasn't my client, but he was someone else's, and he was a pedophile. And I remember he said that the easiest child to perpetrate was an ignorant child. And so, while you believe there is so much sanctity and protection in safeguarding her and not exposing her to certain things, you don't have to throw her to the wolves to let her know that the wolves exist. And then you have this daughter who's naive and so vulnerable to the things that are out here that just as soon as a man comes along who gives her attention, she gone and she running with the first thing that comes along. She's very easy to influence, which also goes into how you have been making all of these decisions for her. You tell her what to do, you don't even tell her why. And then she doesn't understand. She just follows and she does what she's supposed to do. She regurgitates the information that you've given her because, well, that's what you said. Why did you say it? I don't know. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what it is that I'm supposed to say. There are so many other things that you can do to be able to control. I don't want to use the word control, to teach your daughter self management of her decisions and her body, because you are finding all these ways to give birth to this young lady with low self esteem. And then, mothers, this is what you do. You'll say, no, Naila, I tell her she's a queen all the time. I compliment her. I tell her that she can do anything out there. And you do. And then, right there in front of her face, she can bear witness to you treating yourself like trash. She is watching you give all of this time and attention to other things and ignoring yourself. She is watching you have these physical and emotionally and even spiritually abusive relationships with men, sometimes her own father. right in front of her face. But somehow or another, because you have called her queen or princess, she's not going to follow your example. You are her example for finer womanhood. But the belief that because you've told her that she's going to automatically pick it up is crazy. You are totally ineffective if you believe that you can raise a child. Don't, don't do what I do, but do as I say. Really? I got it too. It doesn't work. Ain't nobody learned a hardcore lesson from what someone else did. My best lessons were the ones that I bought myself. And that's how she's going to get hers. But what you can do is that you can arm her with the information and the experiences rather than you just totally taking control of the situation. And then when she doesn't have a baby, you happy. But I want you to look at the things that you are giving birth to based on the decisions that you make. What is the remedy? Encourage her to explore her own interest, because telling her that the goal is to be a wife and a mother and totally excluding who she can develop into as a woman, it's not going to happen. No one gets up every day and totally forgets themselves. No, what happens is this is how women forget themselves. They get distracted by what they do for other people. And then you get so worn down that you don't want to do nothing for anyone else. But you remember you. You actually even start resenting the people around you for the things that they expect you to do because you get tired of it. So, this idea that somehow or another she's going to be exempt and she's not going to want to have any interest or she's going to push him by the wayside, where do you get that from? Because if you look at the women around you, you see how at some point they too went to go to get themselves. And please, I I beg of you to let her know about your mistakes and your flaws. To let her know that you can give birth to a bad decision and that you can recover from it. Because when you give this false presentation that you yourself, the only thing that you've ever given birth to are good decisions and your own children, it's a lie. You too have struggled, you have made mistakes, you have regrets, you have sorrows. And you don't have to pour out the entire story to your daughter, but you do deserve to tell her the truth. Allow her to give birth to herself rather than keep telling her, don't do this, don't give birth to this, don't give birth to this, don't give birth to this. Because there are so many other things that can come from her.